Thank you for attending the Cannabis Investor Webcast, where cannabis companies increase their awareness and exposure, and investors, analysts, and media can research cannabis companies. Our next speaker today is Todd Dinkin, CEO and President of DigiPath Incorporated.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Derwin. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Like Derwin said, my name is Todd Dinkin, and I am the founder and CEO and president of DigiPath Inc. and also DigiPath Labs. And we started back in 2010, and we went public in the digital pathology space. And what we did is we parlayed that into the burgeoning market of cannabis testing laboratories. Now, why did we do that? Well, probably the same reason that you're on this webcast today is that legal marijuana sales hit a new high in 2015 at $5.4 billion. And as you can see, that is a 17.4% increase from 2014. What other industry is going to give you that kind of growth? Now, it seems like the medical marijuana and the recreational marijuana space is a very sexy space to investors these days. There are literally opportunities everywhere, and some people like the risk of growing and selling cannabis, and some people don't, and they prefer the ancillary businesses and services to the industry, and that is where we come in. See, we don't make or sell the cannabis, we test it. And if you look at that chart over there on the right, according to Marijuana Business Daily, testing labs can increase in value by 10x in just 2 short years. Why do they say that? Well, it's because success or failure of this industry is really dependent on testing labs, because the testing labs are the ones that allow the medicine to be sold. So really, when you invest in the lab side of the industry, you invest in the entire industry. Now, what is happening in America? You can see it across that map right there. Legalization is literally creeping across the country. Lots of states are voting in 2016 to legalize, and as legalization certainly sweeps across the country, so does mandatory testing of all cannabis products. It is starting to finally happen in Colorado. There's mandatory microbial testing, mandatory pesticide testing due to the problems that they have, and now they have mandatory potency testing as well. It is happening in California finally. It is happening in Illinois, New York, Oregon, and definitely happening right here in Nevada where we are. Lab testing is critical to patient safety and consistency, and testing labs, like I mentioned, are literally shaping the industry standards, because if you want to call this stuff medicine, you really have to treat it like medicine, and that's what we ensure. We are all about patient safety and patient education. So what did we do here at DigiPath? Well, we built a state-of-the-art facility in Las Vegas, Nevada. This was not an easy task to get licensed and get approved, because there's a big barrier to entry for smaller companies in this space. We also hired a diverse and talented staff of high-level scientists, and we created an R&D lab in order to create even additional streams of revenue. Now let's talk about our Chief Science Officer, Dr. Cindy Orser. She's there on the bottom right. And she is a world-class chemist and biologist. She has 18 issued patents. She's authored 41 peer-reviewed publications. She has her PhD in plant pathology and genetics. And if that wasn't enough, she's also consulted for the federal government. And she is also a tenured professor of biochemistry and bacteriology at the University of Idaho. So she's no joke. She has, together with myself, we have built this lab in Las Vegas in order to really set a new standard for testing. Now, we also have a master degree microbiologist, the guy in the middle over there on the left. That's Iniafia, and then up on top, Glenn Marquez. He's another master degree analytical chemist as well. And why did we do that? Well, again, we're setting a new standard for testing and ensuring patient safety. So now you ask yourself, well, why'd you go to Nevada? Why Nevada? Well, great reason, because almost 3 million people live in Nevada, but more importantly, over 42 million people visit Las Vegas every single year. And the good thing about Nevada is that Nevada accepts all out-of-state medical marijuana recommendations. More good news is that recreational marijuana is being voted on and is anticipated to pass in 2016. That's in just a few short months in November. So again, why Nevada? Well, there's 117 approved cultivators here. There's 82 production facilities, and all of them will be producing thousands and thousands of pounds of flower, extracts, and edibles. More good news. Everything has to be tested before it is sold. So what did we do? We spent 2014 licensing and doing all the legal stuff that we had to do in order to qualify for this lab. And in 2015, we built our lab here in Las Vegas. Again, a state-of-the-art facility with very high-end machinery. And now it's 2016. We expect a very strong showing. In 2016, revenue has begun, and we're about to announce our revenue actually when our Q comes out at the end of, actually in just a few short days. So you'll see that. Now, the Nevada Health Department predicts that the demand for medical marijuana will be 540,000 pounds a year in Nevada's full year of production. Now, that is all based on the Nevada patients and, of course, the 42 million visitors that come here every year. Well, let's just narrow that down to 500,000 pounds. So just so we can do a little math here. So 500,000 pounds, every 5 pounds of flour has to be tested. So that's over 100,000 tests, which makes testing in Nevada alone a $60 to a $70 million industry. That's just testing. That's not selling any marijuana. That's not cultivating any marijuana. That is just testing the marijuana. And again, Nevada will vote in 2016 for recreational marijuana, which will make this, quite frankly, Vegsterdam is what I like to call it, because everything has to be tested before it is sold, and that makes testing facilities literally the gatekeepers of the industry. More good news about what we built here in Vegas. We have the best facility in the market. We deliver results in only 48 hours. We have the highest capacity of any other lab in the state, quite honestly, and we have very, very competitive pricing and usually the lowest pricing in the states. So how can we do that? Well, we can do that because of our high capacity and because we really went all out and are able to deliver results very quickly. Now, what else did we do? Well, we also joined the right coalitions and the right organizations in order to promote standardization. We are a member of the Coalition for Responsible Cannabis Production, the Association of Commercial Cannabis Laboratories. We work directly with state officials, especially right here in Nevada, and with other state officials in other states like Colorado and Washington. And Cindy Orser as works directly with the Conference of Western Attorneys General, advising them on cannabis safety and, of course, cannabis standardization, because, you know, it's all different in every state, and our whole agenda is really making it safe and standard in states all across the country. What else did we do in the last year and a half? Well, we even built our own multimedia platform in order to market and brand ourselves. So originally, we just started our own network, the National Marijuana News, to deliver news and information about testing labs. Well, that has turned into quite a little life of itself. You know, not only do we promote ourselves, but we do news, interviews, and education, and we get about 200,000 web page views on our website every month. We have over 124,000 likes on our Facebook page, and we literally get 150,000 listeners to our radio show every month. And literally, we use this as a marijuana media destination to educate and to promote ourselves, because now we have the ability to market ourselves and promote DigiPath all around, not only around the country, but certainly around the world, because we are a digital-based platform. We also came out with an app, and you know, That is a free app in the iTunes Store, also on Google Play. Now, our management team is really second to none. Joe Bianco, he is our chairman of the board. He joined us recently, and he is a former New York Stock Exchange CEO. He is a media and mergers and acquisitions specialist. He is a former law professor and a Yale Law School graduate. He is no joke when it comes to the public marketplace, and he is a good friend, a great colleague, and certainly a mentor in my life. I'm Todd Dankin, like I mentioned before. This is my third publicly traded company. First in the early 2000s, I was with a tech company that we built to a $300 million market cap. And then in 2009, I helped take Phototron public, which was one of the very first medical marijuana publicly traded companies. That company now turned into Grow Life. Todd Peterson is a CFO, specializes in building startups through $100 million in revenue, and he's been in and around the public sector for more than 15 years, always delivering shareholder value time and time again. And then, of course, Dr. Cindy Orser, who we spoke about earlier, really a world-class PhD scientist and plant pathologist, and she runs our lab here in Nevada and is helping build the lab also in Colorado that she was just awarded the license for. Now, what is our strategy now that we're up and rolling here in Vegas? Well, that's a great question, because aside from developing the Nevada business, the company has really two straightforward growth strategies upon which it has already embarked on, and the overriding philosophy is to capitalize on the company's existing strengths, which are a state-of-the-art facility in Las Vegas, like we talked about, far and away the best in the state, and we think among the best in the country, right? We have a public stock which can facilitate further financing if used properly, and can become a currency for the future acquisition of operations of assets, and an absolutely first-rate scientific staff, led by, of course, Dr. Cindy Orser, again, who is widely regarded as an important authority and expert in the field. Now, we believe that these advantages position the company perfectly to capitalize on economies of scale as the marijuana testing industry grows, as it surely will, and surely will significantly in the coming years. But then we were thinking, there's no reason to really limit our scope to only laboratories that test marijuana, because the laboratory industry around the United States is relatively fragmented, with a bunch of small pathology labs, environmental labs, and other kinds of labs that are out there, right? So we're also currently looking at acquisitions of any kind of well-respected laboratory operation in any of the states that have legalized or are about to legalize recreational or medical marijuana. Now, our preliminary survey of the marketplace indicates that these local laboratories are often well-established businesses, right? They're producing revenue. They often have hard assets in terms of real estate and equipment, and usually good reputations with some political currency, right? So we believe that a number of these labs can be acquired in relatively short period of time at prices that are quite reasonable, such as like a 4 to 5 times of their EBITDA, right? So because these labs are freestanding, they're often asset-rich businesses, we believe that acquisition financing based primarily on the value of the business and assets being acquired is realistically available in ample quantities, right? And we further believe that many proprietors of these businesses, often who have been running them for years, will find a public stock in the marijuana space to be attractive. And this roll-up strategy has been executed on a large scale by Joe Bianco, our new chairman of the board. I mentioned him earlier. And in the past, his roll-up strategies have resulted in a $700 million company that was listed on the New York Stock Exchange and was eventually sold to Wasserstein Perella and a private conglomeration that achieved nearly $200 million in sales, and then was sold to a public company. Look, we intend to pursue this strategy aggressively, and we believe that we can establish a national footprint this way with that rare combination of speed and safety, because we will not make an acquisition of a company that is not making money. So what are our expansion plans? Well, we talked about that a little bit. We talked about Nevada. We're open here. We are creating revenue. We are open for business, and things are going well. We're also dominating in this market space, which has been quite rewarding after all the hard work that we've done. Again, this Nevada promises to be a $70 million market space for the testing industry alone. So how much of that market share do we think we can capture? We think we can capture a lot, right? And as I also mentioned, DigiPath Labs Colorado and Dr. Cindy Orser was just awarded a license for cannabis testing in Colorado. And guess what? We're going to have favorable terms with Dr. Orser, and as we expand into Colorado. We already have entered into some preliminary discussions with other interested parties in California and also exploring options in Illinois and New York. Now, why do we pick those places? Because laws have changed in California. The industry is burgeoning in Illinois, and New York is going to be a very interesting market as it develops over the next few years. And we believe that these are very low-hanging fruit and can have a new standard set for testing. Now, Green Wave Advisors, they are an independent accounting and marketing firm that does independent testing on the marijuana space. So what they did was they came out with a report that said that laboratories that are well capitalized with accredited experience and performance records and a clear executable plan into multiple states are best positioned to achieve economies of scale when federal laws change. These companies will be the ones best positioned to endure and capture a slice of the revenue pie, which GreenWave says is going to reach $850 million by 2020. That is a huge marketplace for testing of marijuana products. Again, less risky than growing marijuana, much less risky than selling marijuana, much less risky than making marijuana pipes and bongs and that as well, because also there's some issues with that. So this is an opportunity to get in on the ground floor of an $850 million industry that's about to explode on the marketplace in the next 4 years. Now, there is really little doubt among industry observers that comprehensive testing of marijuana to ensure its safety and efficacy will be a requirement in every jurisdiction, and our expansion efforts will follow those changes in order to maximize our profits in any given state. And right now, we are currently seeking $2 million. It is a straight equity play at 15 cents per share, and you also get a matching 30-cent warrant, because we're not going to sit here and hover around 15 cents. That is not the plan. Our plan is to drive revenue and drive acquisitions and then drive shareholder value. Now, our plan is to capitalize on this emerging marketplace, so you have to ask, what is your plan, right? If you'd like to learn more about what we do, there is our website, DigiPath.com is our holding company, DigiPathLabs.com is our lab company. You can see and read and hear all about us and what we've been doing in the news and outside of the news, and take a look at our blog and our press releases, so you can really learn a lot about what DigiPath's philosophy is. But as I mentioned before, we really are inclined and our goals are to set the standard for cannabis testing in the United States and even beyond. Now, what's our exit strategy? Because all shareholders, they want to hear what's your exit strategy? How do I make my money? Well, that's a good question, because our shareholders, quite honestly, can sell their stock at any moment. We are a publicly traded vehicle. DIGP is our trading symbol, so you can literally log on to your brokerage account and buy some stock today, right? Or you can make a more significant investment if you're a accredited investor, and that's where we're looking to raise that $2 million. If you want to learn more, if you have any questions, there is the phone number. It's 702-209-2429, as you can see. And we always open the doors for tours here at the facility, because until you've seen a high-end medical marijuana testing facility, it's really tough to understand how advanced and how serious this business is. Look, Daddy always said, take something complex, make it simple, and then repeat until rich, right? So that's the plan. We're in our repeat until rich phase, and again, expansion is looking like Colorado, California, Oregon, Illinois, and New York. So our plan is to either become the 900-pound gorilla, or the Quest Laboratories, if you will, of the cannabis space, or guess what? Someone will eventually become that, and then they will buy us. So either way, folks, you know, our plan is not to just stay here in Las Vegas. Our plan is to certainly capitalize on the Las Vegas market, but again, take advantage of economies of scale and build our brand and become the #1 testing name to go to in medical and recreational marijuana. So that is our story, folks. I'm sticking to it. I appreciate you listening here today. And I guess, Derwin, if anybody has any questions, I guess we'll answer those now.
The first question, Todd, who are your competitors, privately held and publicly traded, and what are your advantages?
That's a great question. There are competitors in the space. Probably the biggest names in the space are Steve Hill-Hallant, SC Labs. They are both in California and in Washington. Locally, there's a couple of other labs that are mostly privately held. Can Labs, which used to be a leader in Denver, they were mismanaged and recently went out of business. So there really is not a lot of competition that is a leader in the space. And the good news is that we've become the leader in the space already. And again, our competitive advantages are simple. We have the biggest brain power in our PhD chief science officer, our master degree microbiologist, and our master degree chemists as our main scientists that really are running the testing. We have the highest capacity, so we can handle over 800 tests a day right here in our Las Vegas facility. And also pricing. We also offer the lowest pricing available, and we deliver our results in only 48 hours because we do have the high-end machinery and we do things really the best and most cost-effective way to get it done. So to answer your question even more long-windedly is that we really have the opportunity to dominate here because there is no true leader in the space.
Okay, next question, Todd. Can you run through the assumptions behind your market size for Nevada?
Sure. The assumptions are simple, actually. According to the Nevada Department of Health, they are assuming that out of the 3 million people that live here, we have about 13,000 patients. That number is growing every single day, and it's growing by the thousands per month, not by the hundreds. And the more important statistic is that 42 million people visit Las Vegas every single year. So Nevada has a reciprocity law. Okay, the reciprocity law says that not only if you have a medical marijuana license from another state can you use it in Nevada, but if you forgot to bring it with you, you can sign an affidavit and say that you left it at home and you are on, you have your patient license at home. Plus, Nevada is about to vote on recreational marijuana in November of 2016, and it is definitely expected to pass. This is a brand new burgeoning industry in Nevada, and the Department of Health predicts that over 500,000 pounds will be needed to satisfy the need of the patients that will come not only from California, from Arizona, from Colorado, but certainly the ones coming right here in Nevada. Now, there's over 200 makers of marijuana products, whether they're a grow facility or they are a production facility or they are making edibles. So those are the three classifications. There's cultivators, there's production folks who make the oils and the extracts, there's kitchens who make the edibles, and then there's the dispensaries. So out of those 200 licenses, guess what? Every single marijuana product, whether it's a flower or an extract or an edible, it has to be tested, and sometimes multiple times. So if you're taking your trim and you want to make oil from that, well, the trim has to be tested, and then once the oil is made, then the oil has to be tested. So it's very stringent regulations here in Nevada, and stringent on the side of the patient safety. So all of those numbers combined are the assumptions that we're going to meet our goals.
Next question, Todd. How difficult is it to get accreditation for you and for, I guess, smaller labs?
Sure. It is. It's not difficult. If you do everything right, you know what I mean. So if you're doing best laboratory practices, if your standard operating procedures are all in order, and you fill out the proper paperwork and pass all of the tests, it's a relatively simple process, but it is a little expensive. So we are going through the accreditation, the ISO accreditation process, and it takes a little while, but again, if you're doing everything the right way, which is how we operate, it is not a difficult process, it is just a laborious process.
And for smaller labs?
For the smaller labs, it's more difficult just because it's time consuming and expensive.
And that rolls into the next question. How expensive is equipment? And is this a hurdle for smaller labs?
It is definitely a hurdle for smaller labs. Our lab here in Vegas, we spent $1.4 million on testing equipment. Now that includes a triple quad mass spec, which is a $250,000 machine that is used to detect pesticides. It includes a $200,000 plasma spectrometer that tests for heavy metals. You know, it includes a $100,000 microbial tester called a qPCR, which allows us to look in the DNA of the microorganisms and the DNA of the plant as well. It includes another $100,000 UPLC, which is a gas chromatography, and you know the list goes on and on. So it is a very expensive process, especially if you go with high-end gear. There are cheaper or should I say less expensive, well, cheaper and less expensive ways to go with different makers of these products. We went with Agilent and Waters, two of the highest respected names in not only cannabis testing, but all pharmaceutical and food testing as well. So there is a barrier to entry sometimes for smaller companies, for sure.
Okay, so this next question is kind of three parts, but it's asking about, are you planning to take over smaller labs? And I think you answered that in your presentation, but maybe you could touch on it. But also, you know, part of the question I think is, you know, with the smaller labs, because of the equipment, the the cost of the equipment, the difficulty in getting accreditation, the smaller labs, because they have those hurdles, would be, I guess, their exit strategy would be DigiPath to let DigiPath acquire them. So if you could kind of answer that question, Todd, are you planning to take
Sure.
over smaller labs?
Yeah, sure. So the whole deal is this. We want a smaller lab. I hope we find labs where we are their exit strategy. Because what does that do? That gives us a footprint everywhere we want a footprint, right? So we want those labs to be in need of us. But the flip side of that is a lab is only attractive to us if they're generating revenue, right? I don't want to get into a situation with these smaller labs that aren't creating revenue. But what acquiring these labs allow them to do is achieve the next level of testing, achieve and use the DigiPath standard operating procedures, the DigiPath IP, the DigiPath way of testing. So it is a perfect fit. Excuse me, it's a perfect fit, really. These smaller labs that are looking to maybe they want to expand. You know, we get calls all the time. There's a lab in Michigan, there's a lab in Maryland, there's several labs in Colorado that want us to purchase them. But again, we look for the best opportunity for the investors and the labs that are generating revenue.
Okay, next question. What is the timeline for having control of the Colorado lab, and what type of business model is this? Licensing from the owner? Question mark.
Sure. So the timeline is, we are raising $1 million for our facility out there. It is owned and operated by Dr. Cindy Orser, who is our Chief Science Officer. She is a Colorado resident, and through management fees and licensing fees, she will be able to use the DigiPath, IP, the DigiPath operating procedures, and so forth. So it is a well-funded partnership, if you will, and like I said, Cindy is on the pesticide committee because they're about to change laws in Colorado in order to mandate mandatory testing for pesticides. So they haven't done that in Colorado before. So there's nobody with any experience there testing for pesticides. Nobody's qualified. Nobody's licensed because it hasn't been done because the state didn't require it. So their pesticide testing is literally randomly going to a dispensary, taking stuff off the shelves, and then taking it to the Department of Agriculture and testing it there. So Cindy has been able to advise the state of Colorado on what we're doing here in Nevada, which is a very strict pesticide rule. So our goal again is to open this year in Colorado, and Cindy will be running that lab as well.
The next question, I don't know how much you can talk on this, but you stated about Can Labs, and we know Jennifer Murray's not there anymore, and I think she took the license. But I was just reading something. It was just on the news here in Atlanta, Georgia, that Can Labs was looking to apply for a testing license here and some other cities. So is Can Labs out of business, or in the future are they
Certainly Can Labs Colorado is. Can Labs Colorado is definitely out of business. I know Jennifer as well, very nice lady, and I've known her for a long time. So yes, they are currently out of business in Colorado, and they had a license opportunity here in Nevada that I do not believe they are going to pursue. I really don't know anything beyond that regarding Jennifer's future, or certainly anything in Georgia.
Okay. Next question.
I like Jennifer, just so we're clear. Jennifer's, we're friends, and we know each other, and I wish Jennifer nothing but the best. She's involved with one of the original founders in Women Grow, and she's a pioneer in the industry for sure.
Okay. Next question. Are there any hurdles acquiring licenses in out-of-state labs? So I guess what they're saying, Todd, is with, for instance, dispensaries. Like in Colorado, you have to be a resident to obtain a Colorado license. Is it any hurdles like that as far as testing licensing is concerned?
There are hurdles sometimes. It's not easy getting a medical marijuana establishment license, whatever business you happen to be in, whether it's cultivation, dispensary, or lab testing. There are many hurdles to the licensing process. There's fingerprinting and FBI background checks, and it's a very intense process. So to answer your question, yes, there are hurdles. Colorado, though, seems to be the only state that has the mandatory residency rule. And Colorado is the one that has really limited, outside investing, which is very strange. But other states are really open for business, and that's really how it is. So it's really all about having the wherewithal, both financially and, I guess ethically, to open up in these states.
Next question, Todd. You mentioned a 4 to 5 times EBITDA when acquiring smaller labs. Is many of the labs, are you guys finding that they are profitable?
Oh yeah. And that was mentioned about the other pathology and environmental labs. So we are looking to purchase those as well, and then convert them as laws change in various states. So if we know that marijuana is on the ballot somewhere, we're looking in those specific states for a pathology lab or an environmental lab or some other kind of lab that is creating revenue. A medical lab and then again converting that into the medical marijuana space. Or we're looking for a current revenue generating lab as well. A marijuana lab as well.
Next question, I don't know if you know the answer to this. The audience member is asking you about Steep Hill. They heard that Steep Hill will be doing an IPO soon. Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know anything about that. I do know that there is a company called Pazoo that is a management firm of laboratories, and they have licensed Steep Hill's technology here in Nevada, but they have still yet to open. I know Steep Hill is open in California, and I know they are building, or they might be open already somewhere in Washington as well. I know Steve D'Angelo, and I know all the guys over there at Steep Hill, and very smart, very good guys, but I do not know about any kind of IPO that they might be doing.
Next question, Todd. The $2 million in funding, could you give us some color on what you would do with the $2 million?
Absolutely. Well, the first $1 million will go to open our Colorado lab, and the second $1 million will go to open our second lab, either in California, in Oregon, Illinois, or New York, whichever we can make that deal happen the fastest.
Next question. Would you eventually become an acquisition candidate? And I don't know if you could answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Wouldn't that be great, right? I mean, once we have a dozen or so labs across the country, yeah, we become a very attractive acquisition, don't we?
And who would you think, who would be some of the players as far as acquiring you guys? Would it be Big Pharma?
It would be, yes, it would be either a Quest or a LabCorp or an offshoot of that from Big Pharma, because I do believe that, once this product, it's an interesting product because it's morphine to some people and it's beer to another one, right? It's beer and wine to other people. So it's a very interesting product. But eventually, when it is federally approved, I believe, and we believe that Big Pharma will come in. And Big Pharma doesn't build anything. They buy everything, right? So eventually, over time, they will own everything unless something drastic happens, So when this drug does become federally legal, the FDA gets involved, the EPA gets involved, the USDA gets involved, maybe even, firearms and tobacco get involved. It's such a strange industry that federal authorities will get involved eventually, and all of them will have their hand out for a piece of this. Now, when that happens, who do you think is going to follow after that? Exactly what you said, Derwin, which is Big Pharma, right? And that's why we built a state-of-the-art facility, because if this were to close, if medical marijuana was illegal suddenly, well, guess what? We could still be in the lab business, because these are not just medical marijuana testing machines. They test food and water and soil and pharmaceuticals as well. So yes, I do believe that over time, Big Pharma will come in and buy everybody, not just labs, but cultivators, dispensaries, and everybody else involved in the industry.
Next question, Todd. What are your plans to increase your liquidity?
Revenue. Revenue is the key, right? So like I mentioned earlier, our Q is coming out in just a few days, and we're about to announce our revenue. But look, it's all about revenue. We are in a good place here in Las Vegas. There are currently 18 operating cultivators right now, and we have been doing business with 12 of them. So we're in a good spot. The Las Vegas market is maturing every single day. There are more licenses being approved every single day. And then once that happens, 90 days from that period comes the product. So, I believe that March, April will be very strong, not only break-even months, but also profitable months as well.
Yeah, just as a note, Todd, I built a financial model, and I'm pretty sure Alan Brockstein and Michael Berger and Michael Schwartz, I'm pretty sure those guys have their own models. But with my
Mhm.
model, I have 10 metrics that I really look at when it comes to cannabis companies. Uh, the 10 being cash, revenue, shares outstanding, float, liquidity, 52-week low and 52-week high, spread, are they current on their filings, institutional shareholders. So that's about 10 metrics I look at. And you guys score pretty good on cash on your balance sheet, shares outstanding, float, 50, you're close to your 52-week low. You're really far from your 52-week high. You have you have a decent spread on your stock. The spread is not too far. You're current on your filings. I don't think you guys have any institutional shareholders, but pretty much on all my metrics, you score a 10. You got a 0 for cash. I mean for revenue, but when you come out with your quarterly statements, I guess in a couple of weeks, that's going to change to a 10, and you're going to get a pretty high score on my model after that. So uh, I just purchased some stock this morning. I like your business, and I like you guys' growth opportunities for the future. I
Well,
consider you
thank you.
guys I
Appreciate
consider
that.
you guys one of probably the top 10 cannabis stocks. I think that's it for questions. Let me make sure. Oh, last question here. Oh well, we have another question. What what is the thinking behind having people pay to download your app?
It is now free, so the thinking has changed. So download away.
And next question, is it possible to get a copy of the slide deck?
It is a possibility. Please email me at info@digipath.com, and I will have to release a 10K, or yeah, in order to release it to one person, I have to release it to everybody. But yes, it's definitely possible.
And the last question is probably for me. Will this be recorded? Yes, this will be recorded and downloaded to YouTube. Give me about a week. We have to make edits to the presentations, and then we'll download it to YouTube in about a week's time. And also, we will send the link to Todd, and Todd can put the link to the presentation on his website. But I think that's it. Any last comments, Todd, about DigiPath?
I just want to say thank you to David Rabinowitz, who just sent us an email for the slides. Thank you for your interest. But in closing, I just want to say that exactly what you said, Derwin, is that we are in the right place at the right time in the cannabis space. This is a very interesting marketplace. It is a very sexy marketplace, and it's a very risky marketplace sometimes if you don't put your money in the smart places. Again, we are a service to the industry. We don't buy it or we don't sell it. We don't make it. We just test it and make sure it's safe for human consumption. So it's a very interesting place to be, which is the testing space in this industry. It is a smart place to put your money. And again, it's a great place to dip your toe in the water, see how you like it, and we are destined for success. And certainly, my commitment to the shareholders is that I'm going to do everything in my power and perform at the best of my ability because I think we are in the right place at the right time, and this is a wonderful opportunity.
Well, thank you, Todd. We really appreciate your presentation, and looking forward to you giving us an update maybe in another 3 months.
Awesome.
All
Great.
right, our next speaker is at the top of the hour at 2 o'clock, Craig Goodwin, CEO and Director of Naturally Splendid Enterprises Limited. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You too.